Fight Nation.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMAjunkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes. This is what we do and why we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMAjunkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMAjunkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMAjunkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMAjunkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
You are listening to the MMAjunkie Radio Show. The guys are in Las Vegas. I'm at the KOCI Studios, 101.5 Classic Rock in Costa Mesa. And we're ready to talk some MMA. I'm Gorgeous George. Back in Vegas, we have Dan Tom, the fight analyst. Goes, our ace co-host, John Morgan, former Journalist of the Year, and producing the show will be Jumbo Josh. He's at the SiriusXM Studios in New York. Also, shout out to Mike Boyle. He's hanging with me here in Costa Mesa. What's up over there, fellas? How you doing?
Yo, I'm good, man. I'm digging in for Khabib versus the UFC, man. This is
my God,
Titanic clash coming up, man.
Hey, if anybody's gonna do it though, like you got to remember, people that come from different cultures, they have a different mentality than some of us.
Yep.
A lot of here in America, we'll say a lot of stuff. Turn off our Wi-Fi and see what happens. Like how brave all of a sudden we shut down and go, okay, just Cox Cable, please put back the Wi-Fi. I'll do whatever. I don't know. Russia, they have a different mentality. I would imagine when they say something, they damn well mean it.
I believe it, man. I don't think it's an empty threat from Khabib, man. I think he said, you know what, I'll walk away right now. I won't even think twice about it, man. It's it's an interesting position because, listen, man, Zubaira, we saw the tape. We saw the tape. The man scaled the fence and started throwing punches. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how this plays out. This is drama at the highest level, man.
Could the simple solution just be for the UFC to fine him, suspend him, but not cut him, and then we're all good? Granted, there'd be a little bit of a pushback, like, hey, what about Paul Daly? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, listen, even when, and I said this from the very beginning, I mean, even when Dana said at the press conference, those two guys will never fight for us, I don't think in fact, I don't think he said those two guys. I think he said those guys will never fight for us. I don't think he knew that they were already on the roster. The way he says it, I mean, listen, Dana's got a lot going on, man. He's juggling a lot of plates at one time, and I don't think he knew who the guys were. I know he hadn't seen the tape yet. None of us had seen the tape yet. You know what I mean? We were sitting in that room trying to piece together everything.
Right.
I think what he was saying was, if those two guys were regional level fighters who are on, Khabib's team and are becoming, like, just know that they're blackballed. They'll never fight for us. It'll never even be a possibility. I don't think he knew who they were, to be honest with you, when he said that. So yeah, I mean, I think you scrap the fight, as we talked about. I don't think it would be responsible for Zubaira and Artem Lobov to fight in Moncton. It sounds like that fight is being scrapped. We've yet to hear an official announcement, but everything we've heard behind the scenes is not going to happen. I think that's a good call. I don't think you need to bring those teams back together right now. But yeah, I don't think you have to scrap the guy forever. Maybe you suspend him a year, maybe you fine him, something like that.
I mean, Dana's kind of adopted throughout the years. You've seen throughout the years, he used to just make decisions like that on the spot. And then he learned, all right, I need to let things calm down, and then I'll say it. In this case, the same way I sort of give Khabib that little bit of a pass, I kind of give it to Dana too, just because a lot of shit went on. But I bet looking back, he probably would have thought, man, I probably shouldn't have just said anything. Like, we'll deal with it later. Then you're right. Then he figures out, oh, yeah, they're already on the roster. And then he can avoid certain situations like that because now somebody's going to have to dick-tuck a little bit. Whether it's Habib or it's the UFC, someone's going to have to do it.
I think Dana can come to the table and just be like, well, listen, I was pretty hot and heated at the time. In retrospect, once I sat down and considered it, there was a lot of people here. There was, you could basically make the case, and then you just suspend them for a little while. But yeah, dude, I think if they stick to their guns, dude, I think Habib will stick to his as well.
Is there something to Habib? Was he reaching out and saying that he'd like to fight RDA, or did I hop on the wrong link or something like that?
I did see something like that yesterday. I was tied up, but I believe
you see how he wrote next October, November, or December, so implying I won't fight for a whole year, and of course, punctuating that he isn't going to fight because of Ramadan in the summer. But that still leaves quite a few months before then. The reason I bring this up is if the UFC decided they're not going to dick tuck and they are going to puff their chest. Could they be looking that on their hands, though Habib is an amazing fighter. He committed one mistake, but otherwise has had a pretty stellar career. But if this guy's only fighting once a year, is this going to be worth the hassle? And they just move on.
I think this may be a unique situation. First of all, we still should be said, we still have to wait to see what the Nevada State Athletic Commission does. That could dictate a lot of what happens here. It would make it super easy. If for whatever reason the NSAC does come out with like a year suspension, that would make it very easy for the UFC to strip Habib of his title, just to say, hey, listen, we got to keep the thing moving on. But I've seen the argument, I guess, that I've seen some people on social media already this morning saying, well, listen, if Habib quits, who cares, man? He's not even a star anyway. He's not even a big deal. But I disagree with that, man. I think he is a big deal, man. I think, again, I do think that what happened after the fight kind of marred his performance. But especially globally, he's definitely well known. You look at the social media followers he has. You look at that. He's definitely a star. And that was a star-making performance. Does he want to wait a year until he fights again? If that's the case, so be it. He cashed in a huge payday. If he wants to just take a break for a while, I imagine he's pretty mentally and physically exhausted at this point. But, I don't think he's made it clear that I'm only going to be those, that once a year type fighter, like a George St. Pierre or something. Like, I'm not really retired. I'm just going to drop in here and there. I don't think he's made it clear that that's the way he's going to be.
Well, I think people need to stop looking at the UFC as just an American product. They forget how much goes into this global expansion. You see what Vitor Belfort's like in Brazil, and some of those guys. Habib was the president of Russia the other day. He's a big deal. Whether you think he's not here, he definitely is overseas. Yep. So it's a big deal.
Yeah, and speaking of the casual report we were talking about yesterday, I don't know about you guys, but I'm still getting incoming casual reports, so to speak. And my favorite are about, Khabib, because he is such a hardcore. He's been such a guy for endearment to us hardcores for so long that we never really thought of him being on this bubble and getting the rub from McGregor, because you can argue to the degree of what the rub is, but he is getting a rub from this people.
No question.
And I love it because you'll have, one podcast I listened to, you had one guy who's a comedian, but he's taking the time to go, no, it's Khabib Nurmagomedov, which I appreciate. But then I also appreciate, Bill Burr on his podcast going, oh, did you see Kibbles and Bits Malt, the Burger King guy? And I appreciate that too, there is a little bit of a rub there.
I can't seem to find that report, guys, so I don't know. I was scanning Twitter and I thought I saw that and I go, whoa, one whole year? I definitely don't want to wait a whole year to see the next Habib fight. I like watching the guy fight. But now that I look at his Twitter timeline and Instagram, I'm not seeing that, so maybe it was...
I thought I saw something about that.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I feel like I saw something like that yesterday too, but I didn't see it fully fleshed out. So I don't think you're crazy, but yeah, I didn't see anything with any real validity to it.
I thought I saw a tweet earlier
about
what you guys were talking about the Tuhugov fight being a word breaking on that. I don't know if you want to...
Yeah, I've reached out to UFC officials, and they have yet to confirm it with me, but I've heard behind the scenes that, yeah, they're definitely looking for other options.
By the way, on today's show, we'll be talking to Will Brooks, who fights this Saturday at PFL 9 in Long Beach, California. We'll be talking to Josh Copeland, who won twice at PFL 8, thereby making him a finalist in the heavyweight division for the $1 million prize giveaways that they'll be having there at PFL 11 as they wrap up their playoffs. And we'll also be talking to Herschel Walker, a teammate of Habib Nurmagomedov and a former college football and pro football standout. University of Georgia, man. This guy's walks on water over there. and he's also a member of the College Football Hall of Fame. So those fighters will start coming in 30 minutes apart in about 20 minutes. Right now we can take some calls at 866-522-2846, and we'll continue just trudging here through the latest MMA news. Guys, would you not agree, though? You do want to see Khabib fight maybe once in the spring before taking the summer off like he normally does?
Oh, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Against the right guy.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
Ferguson, right?
Yeah, I'm guessing he gets a 6-month suspension. That's just me. I'm guessing he gets a 6-month suspension. If that's the case, he would be clear first week of April or so. So, you can sneak in a fight before Ramadan. I would love to see him fight Ferguson. I want to see him fight Ferguson. That's the fight I want to see made. I know it's jinxed. I know they've tried a bunch of times to put it together, but so what, man? You got to try again. That's the fight I want to see.
One of my casual friends, I'm going to ask you guys this question. He asked me, when it comes to suspensions, he says, isn't it kind of cheesy to book a fight during the suspension and then have them just fight when it ended? Like, you see what I'm saying?
Is.
And
no.
I didn't really have a very good answer for him. I just kind of gave him a wink.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that?
It is, because I mean, if you're engaging in promotional practices while you're still on suspension, I mean, I feel like you're kind of circumventing everything. If you're saying, well, listen, my suspension ends on April 6th, but as it happens, Saturday is April 7th, so we'll go ahead and we'll build it up for 2 months and we'll sell tickets and all that. Yeah, I do believe that's kind of not really the spirit of the law, so to speak. But
has the commission ever said anything about that? Like,
nope.
I often thought that was weird. I really had no answer for him. What do you think about that, George?
Well, because on a technicality, no one's doing anything wrong. He's not fighting until then. All he's doing is training. It's the promotion. Is that the part that is unethical, I guess, if one can say? I mean, the promotion could also wait and say, hey, look what we put together on 3 weeks' notice, just like DC and Derek Lewis. That's a title fight, right? So look what we put together. And, of course, give the word to the fighters 2 months before, hey, start training. That's what they used to do in Pride, start training. And when you arrive in Japan, we'll tell you who's fighting who. Right, but I looked, right, Ramadan for next year it begins on Sunday, May 5th, 2019. So I don't know that he would take it this far, but he could technically fight Saturday, May 4th. But let's just say before then, we would have a few weeks, but we'd have like a 3-week window in April to actually have him fight. And traditionally, the UFC does have a pay-per-view in April. I believe, let me see, January, lately they've been having January, February, March. Pretty much once a month, right? Yeah. So something could land where that could take place, and of course, within the cozy confines of Las Vegas, where they can organize better, or make sure that everything goes off without a hitch. So I don't know. I would like to see it. Now, granted, NSAC comes in and says 9 months a year, then it's all blown out of the water, and we really will have to wait a whole year to see Khabib. But I don't want that, because now that order's restored, where we have the undisputed champion who actually beat the former undisputed champion, now we don't have to say, well, he beat the real estate agent or anything like that. And you have such a quality #1 contender coming off his best fight as well in Tony Ferguson. I just want the division to keep going. Plus, you got Poirier and Diaz, and now Kevin Lee's been booked about said real estate agent, Ally Quinta. They're running it back in Milwaukee on the last Fox show. All these fights matter, and so I'd like to keep the division going if possible.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think they'll find something. I mean, listen, Nevada State Athletic Commission has surprised us before, but I think the thing that most people like to point out when they talk about harsh penalties is the Nick Diaz penalty with marijuana. Yeah. But I think there were extenuating circumstances there, and that Nick has basically, flipped the NSAC, the bird, over and over, and just made it clear he doesn't care about them. I think it would be very easy for Khabib to have an attorney. I mean, if all of us can see it, I think it would be very easy for an attorney to go before the commission and be like, guys, listen, my client definitely screwed up. He shows remorse. He definitely regrets what happened. But please understand all the extenuating circumstances that happened beforehand. The bus incident, this, Dylan Dennis yelling at him, all that. You just got to show a picture of Dylan Dennis, and I think the people get it, right? They go, that dude looks like a punk. and then you give him 6 months, man, which I don't think should affect anything anyway. I think, to me, 6 months is the right amount. Everybody gets to say, hey, we warned him and we told him we'll never put up with it again, but he gets to fight. So That's what I'm going to circle on the calendar. I'm circling April. Nice research on Ramadan. I thought it was usually later in the year, so I didn't realize it started in May.
It moves
George,
around.
Thank you for the information.
You know what else is usually on April is there's always usually a big Fox show that month, and so I'm wondering if the ESPN, are they going to try to do in the same slots, and as well, a lot of times there's kill two birds with one stone, where you have a champion or a big name, but it doesn't translate to the big numbers. So the UFC would put those guys on the Fox shows or find ways to do that. You know what I'm saying?
It's not a bad idea.
I don't know, but I don't know if they want to put a guy.
It's
like
not
that
a bad
on
idea.
mainstream
Habib and
TV,
Ferguson, I don't know if that's a huge pay-per-view hit, even though it's an amazing fight, and we know it's risky. How many times has that fight fallen apart? So that's a good way to – that'd be a nice plan to say, hey, you know what? We'll put this title fight on ESPN. And then if it does fall apart, you know, hey, ESPN already bought the show. It's already paid for.
Hey, we tried to give you big names, ESPN.
We tried to give you the title fight. That's a good plan, man. I like that idea. Hey, UFC, listen up. We got you. We got you handled, son. We got you handled.
Does anybody know what the philosophies are with Fox versus ESPN? Maybe just in general right now with the sports that they have. I know ESPN's been very Disney. They're in hockey. They didn't like fights, that sort of thing. Do you know how that's going to carry over, and if it's going to affect at all mixed martial arts, what their like kind of behind-the-scene philosophies
I don't know as much about ESPN yet. I've talked to some of the guys, and I think they're still kind of forging all that and branding it out. I do know that, interestingly enough, even though the UFC is leaving Fox, you know, I was talking to some of their guys behind the scenes. Fox is going very, very sports-heavy moving forward. I mean, you got to look, you know.
They're going very MMA dark.
They are. Not MMA, unfortunately, but a lot of sports. I mean, imagine that. WWE is going to be on Big Fox every Friday night. Now, I know, again, whether you call that a sport or not, you know, that's up to you, but it falls under that umbrella. And you know, they've got Major League Baseball, they've got Thursday Night Football, I believe, as well. So I mean, there's a lot of sports, but yeah, not MMA, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see. I know like Fox had their favorites, right? They love Nate Diaz. Obviously, they love Glover Teixeira for some reason. But I mean, they had their guys, and I'm wondering if ESPN's going to have their.
I'll tell you what would be interesting is.
Can we lock the door in case Glover comes out?
That's a big man, sir. I don't know if you want to.
One of the nicest guys.
I'd be interested to see if potentially Bellator could end up on Fox at some point. I know that sounds bizarre. But, you know, Viacom owns Bellator. But you look at that Paramount Network. That Paramount Network, it's not a good fit for it right now, man. It's, you know, it's all this, like, premium scripted programming. And from what I understand, like, good shows. I mean, Yellowstone is one of them. And there's some other big franchises that are getting, you know, good viewership numbers and good reviews. But they don't have – it's just Bellator is kind of out of place on there. But if you look under the Viacom, you know, portfolio, there's not another – a good channel where you just go, well, let's just shift it over there. Yeah. So I do wonder if at some point they could license it out and say, you know, hey, we'll take some money from Fox. I haven't heard that it's even being discussed, but it wouldn't shock me as a real possibility moving forward.
You read the writing between the walls as far as, like, you know, moving to streaming services as well. And I will say this is my first year actually covering Bellator. So now I'm going back and thankfully they have stuff on their site. They've got a nice streaming service there. But what they do is they'll kind of embed commercials in it for the Paramount Network. And again, this whole year I can't tell you how many different series that it runs and how many different blocks they put in a commercial. But by the end of their block commercial run is over, about 3 to 4, right? I forget that I'm watching fights. Yeah. Like, it's nothing. None of these programs have anything to do with our demographic.
Yeah.
So you can't help but notice that.
I do want to say too. You brought up streaming. It's just as a service to people. If you don't know, DAZN. If you haven't paid attention, DAZN is quietly they've added KSW. Yeah. They've added EFC over in Africa, which has been a big promotion over there.
That's right.
And they briefly had Fight Nights Global listed on there, and then it was taken off. So I don't know if that was maybe they jumped the gun, and that's not official yet. But they've got that on there. They've got Combate Americas as well. So, by the way, if you signed up for DAZN and you just did it to get Bellator, pay attention. They've added other MMA stuff as well. So
nice.
Just figured I'd throw that out there if you didn't know, because I was just kind of dicking around the other day trying to see, like, you know, what this weekend was going to look like, or, you know, when I was going to watch it. And I saw all those brands on there, and I didn't see a big announcement about it. So if you got that DAZN membership, you've got more MMA than you think.
Let's jump on some calls real quick, guys. We got to get to these because we're going to take a break, and then we're also going to come back and start doing a couple of interviews. So, Josh, tell us what we have, who we have. I don't have a VX in front of me.
Let's go to Nick in Washington.
What's up, Nick? How you doing?
Good. How are you guys? Hey, long-time listener, single-digit caller. I got a couple of questions. Are as fans, are you guys as hardcore of fans as you were, say, 2 years ago?
Yes and no. Only because I think it's virtually impossible to keep up with everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the fact that I do know some things about just some rural organizations that you never hear of, I would say yeah, but the storylines have fallen off a little bit.
Me, I'm an absolute MMA junkie. It's never going to change. I get, people talking about oversaturation or whatever, they can't keep up. But for me, I'm an absolute weirdo who will be watching sport to the day I die, I'm pretty sure.
Other sports have dropped off for me.
I don't watch other sports anymore.
Yeah, that's hurt a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
I still have the Sunday ticket. I pay $300 a year or whatever for the Sunday ticket. I don't even know if I watch any football. I'll turn it on as like background stuff. I couldn't even tell you. I'm Dallas born and raised. I still say I'm a Cowboys fan, but ask me to name more than 2 starters and I'm out.
See, that surprises me. Just again with Texas and being almost indoctrinated at that point, right? Whereas me, obviously, it's never. I gave up basketball after they started buying refs, but that's another story. So it's been about 18 years or so since I've even followed another sport, and I definitely want to say that even with the oversaturation, which I'm definitely a flag waiver of that, but even with that, I want to say that I would still be following every show, even with the oversaturation, even if I wasn't as an MMA media. But considering these guys are veterans here, I figure that they have much more of a grasp of their feelings and balance, where me, I'm probably more of an interesting sample size because I'm a newbie, man. I'm a green. I just recently made the jump. And, if I'm being completely honest, yeah, man, I don't know if I'm quite the hardcore. I don't know if it's because of, I don't want to say it's because of working it, because if I wasn't working it, I'd still be in it just as much, but maybe it is the oversaturation. I mean, I am a flag waiver of that. I don't want to be a hypocrite and backtrack that, but I feel like I can't celebrate these big weekends like we have because we have to go maybe into another one. A little bit of a long-winded answer, but if I'm being honest, slightly lessened.
How about you, Nick?
George? Thanks for the call, Nick. I'll answer it like this. I only get excited by the big matchups, but I'll watch all fights. Let's go to Coach Tony on line 2. What's up, Coach Tony?
I'm pretty sure you got another voice.
Hey, how are you? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, great. I watch you guys all the time. Absolutely excellent. I have a thought on 229. This is just a thought. I've wrestled my whole life, coached high school 15 years, on how Khabib is beating everybody. It's very simple. It's very easy. If you watch him, as soon as he gets his takedown, he'll stop his game. He'll stop. He'll put pressure. And then he throws the legs in, which is called the Navy ride with the legs. It's simple. It's hard to defend. You can't get it. Don't get in it is the key. But if you watch him, he'll stop his game and counter everything from the top. Mm-hmm. He's brilliant. He's good. He's real good. But watch him throw them legs in like a table, all 4 parts of the table, arms and legs. And once he controls the legs with his legs, it's done. They're done. All of them are done. Every one of them. So that's how he's actually beating them. And the key to it is don't get in it. And then I have a thought on, if Conor jumped over the ring, jumped out of the ring that night, and even if they were in New York, he would have been arrested. You got to think about that. So my thought on Khabib jumping out of the ring, starting all of this, simple. You won. We're stripping you of the title. Here's your money, and you're not wrestling in the UFC no more. And the reason why I say this is Dana White mentioned them 3 guys that jumped in. He said if any of them guys are planning on fighting in the UFC, none of them will fight in the UFC. They're banned from fighting. Well, Khabib, same thing. But if Conor jumped out of the ring, he would have been arrested. So this is just a thought that I had. I wanted to share with you guys because I watch it all the time. And how he's beating him, and if Conor jumped out of the ring, if it was different.
Well,
so I just want to
give
you that thought.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, sir, for the call.
No, listen, first thought, absolutely, man. The way he controls the legs, I mean, he's been doing that from the very beginning. And it's incredible how quickly he's able to basically triangle the legs and tie you up. And that makes it obviously a lot easier to control the rest of your body because it's difficult to get up. So the skill, the technique that he uses there, while it's a simple thing, I think he does it better than anybody else. I think he's done it better than anybody in the history of MMA, and that's why he's so controlling. I will disagree with the second point, though. Had the roles been reversed, had Conor, let's say, starched Khabib with a left hand and then jumped out and went after Ali, for instance, in the crowd, I do not believe for 1 second that Conor would have been arrested. I just don't. I believe he would have been brought back to the center of the cage. They would have put the belt on him. I believe he would have been talking to SportsCenter on a live hit. I believe he would have come to the press conference, and I believe that is part of why things got the way they were. I just don't believe that Conor would have been arrested had he jumped the fence. I believe he has been given a longer leash than anybody else in the sport because he is the star that he is, and I think that's part of the problem here, unfortunately. You know, I mean, you think about what happened back in Brooklyn. I mean, yes, I mean, he did face legal repercussions there. He did face issues, but the UFC didn't do anything. They just said, well, we let the legal system do its thing, and that was that. And I think that's what most people are frustrated about right now is they're saying, hey, listen, you know, why are you going to take issue with what Khabib did if you didn't take issue with what Conor did?
Is that the line, John? Is that the worst we will ever see Conor do? We have to figure out where that line is, because the more money he makes, the more power he's going to have. My question is that the line?
God, I hope so, man. Because I will say, I mean, I know that it's 6 months ago. We're not talking about
every time, right?
Dude, that day in Brooklyn felt so awful, man. I just remember thinking, good Lord, this is the biggest star in our sport. This is the one that everybody pays attention to, and he's acting like just a common hoodlum. You know, like what in the F is going on? And I remember, I mean, and now it just ended up being, you know, fight promo.
One more thing about Coach Tony, because you say you listen to every day, so hopefully you're watching right now. Next call, if you do not blow a whistle at the end of your call, I will be deeply saddened.
I'm hurting.
That should be your thing.
Well done. All right, let's go to the next caller. Kevin in Chicago. What's up, Kevin?
What's up? So I was listening to an interview with Jordan Johnson. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's coming off that impressive win in Russia against a undefeated Chechen. And it sounds like UFC is not too keen on bringing him back. It sounds like they're not really, they don't want to give him the money he's worth, and they're all right with letting him go. I think this is kind of the problem. I hate to harp on the wrestling issue, but it just keeps coming back and bringing itself up. He's a wrestler, and the UFC don't want to get behind wrestlers, so they're just perfectly fine with letting him go. But with a guy like Dan Hooker, he was ranked like 15th, and all of a sudden he's going to jump up to the number 6 spot and face Edson Barboza. You can see the UFC is giving him a big push. But where's Gregor Gillespie? He's undefeated, and he's like 4 or 5-0 in the UFC. Where's his big push? UFC just don't want to get behind the wrestlers. And for the MMA journalists who don't want to say anything, say, oh, it's entertainment. The fans, they want to see excitement. You're never going to be respected as a real sport if you keep that attitude up. You need to start treating it as a real sport and look at it as objective sport, not a sports entertainment. That's my thoughts today, guys. Take it easy.
Yeah, respect, man. Dan Hooker, I'm a big Dan Hooker fan, man. I love that guy. I love, obviously, he's a fantastic fighter. He's also an incredible analyst, man. He does a lot of breakdowns and stuff. Yeah. If you're not familiar with him, check out his YouTube channel. He's a great analyst, man. He does a great job breaking down film. And Gregor Gillespie, good shout out there, man. I think that dude's the future as well, man. He's the truth, bro. I will say this with Jordan Johnson. I didn't see the interview you're talking about, so I would like to see it. I was in Russia. Jordan Johnson did pick up a very, very impressive win there. And afterwards, he admitted, he's like, listen, you know, this is the last fight on my contract. I felt some pressure coming in. I did kind of put some, I risked my future, basically, kind of bet on myself that I would win here. He's 10-0, including 4-0 in the UFC, 3 decisions. But I will say, I do wonder, you know, when you say they're not willing to pay me the money I'm worth. That's the interesting argument, right? I mean, the money that I'm worth. You know, I love the sport. I mean, we just talked about how hardcore we are, man. And I mean, this sport has taken up my life for the better part of 20 years, man. It's what I live and breathe. But there is an argument sometimes about what fight. I wish every fighter was incredibly wealthy, man. You think about the sacrifices. I mean, we see it on a daily basis, the lifestyle they have to live, what they do, man. It's tough. But when you say what I'm worth, you know, if you're let's say, you know, he's 4-0. So let's say he started out 10-10. He's probably getting a 3-3 jump. We didn't see Moscow pay reports, but I'm going to guess he was probably at an 18-18 or a 20-20 type range. I'm guessing somewhere in there. Did Jordan Johnson generate $40,000 worth of revenue for the UFC? No. Did $40,000 worth of tickets get sold to see Jordan Johnson fight? Did $40,000 worth of merchandise get sold in relation to Jordan Johnson? Did $40,000 worth of, you know, then you can argue with the TV deals, you know, you are part of the TV package, so maybe you could argue it there. But that's the question mark, and I think that's what people have to realize. And you're right. It's a tough equation, man, because winning should be enough. But it's not. That's not what's come to the forefront. I mean, Conor McGregor, when you talk about why he's such a superstar, it's not like, oh man, I think he's just his jiu-jitsu is phenomenal, man, and it's not that. It's the braggadocio. It's the way he handles himself at the press conference, the way he does interviews. That's what people tune in for. That's what generates revenue. So that's what you have to remember. When people start getting into pay arguments, I do want you to remember, man, think about it as a business operator, man. As a business operator running profits and losses, and you talk about what a fighter is, quote-unquote, worth, you got to think about what are they generating in terms of revenue. That's what they're worth. What they're worth is what they generate. And sometimes, unfortunately, winning just isn't enough by itself.
Perfect answer. Yeah, that pretty much puts the whole thing. And just on my end, I'm a huge Hooker fan. I follow all the websites. I do everything.
Got that drop.
No, Dan Hooker.
Dan is great too. Don't get me wrong. And Gillespie's a beast. But George, are we getting close to where we need to do our?
Yeah, I got to be the bad guy. We got to jump in and do a break here. So we'll continue. We'll continue taking calls. I think we'll be able to slip some in after the Brooks interview, but we got to be on time. So let's take a quick break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close. We'll be back with Will Brooks.
I'm ill, I'm ill, I'm ill, rah, rah. I'm ill, I'm ill, I'm ill, I'm ill, rah, rah. Motherfucker, I'm ill, motherfucker, I'm ill.
Charm, compassion, common sense. These guys have none of that. You listen to them, so you're no better. I am awesome, though. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
NBA training camps are open, and each night at 7 Eastern, check out NBA Radio's team preview shows. Tonight, hear from the stars of the Chicago Bulls. Then at 8 Eastern, it's the Sacramento Kings. Hear them on NBA Radio, Sirius 207 XM86, and streaming on your phone or at home on Sirius XM connected devices and speakers. All right, let's talk some PFL. As we've been telling you all week, we'll be at PFL 9 in Long Beach, California, myself and Goes. This week we have light heavyweights and lightweights. Remember, they each fight 2 times, a possible amount of 2 times, to get to the finals of PFL 11, where they will compete for $1 million prize. Will Brooks is one of the participants in the lightweight division. He will be facing off against Rashid Magomedov. The fights can be seen prelims on Facebook Live, so you want to go to facebook.com/live. PFL is very prominent on that. And, of course, they turn it over to NBC Sports at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. That's Channel 220 if you have DirecTV. Otherwise, check your cable and satellite listings. Joining us now on the hotline is Will Brooks. What's up, Will? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing, bro?
Good, man. Been fun, covering you on this journey. I think we've had you on before each fight, and so far things have gone well. You're 2-0 and building on another win streak. You're all about win streaks. When I observe your career, 20-4 overall, you've had 2 9-fight win streaks, and that's very, very impressive. And now, of course, you're riding on 2, and if you can get another 3, you'll be a millionaire and all set up nicely to keep things going in 2019. You must be pretty jacked right now with the way things are going in your PFL career.
Yeah, man, I'm jacked about the way things are going in my career, period. You know what I mean? Like, things got a little nutty there for a little bit. I was taking a couple L's, back to back, and for me, that felt so uncomfortable, just because a couple of those fights I was winning, and then I would just have these lapses of judgment, and I forget that I'm in here with professional, not in every sense of the word, but I'm in here with professional killers in here, you know what I mean? I'm having lapses of judgment, and dudes are snapping me off real quick. I'm you standing around looking like, what just took place? I thought I was here, I was ready to fight, but it's exciting to be back to winning, man. That's always the main goal, and I'm just happy to be back on track.
You're facing another competitor similar like you. He's all about the win streaks as well. He's had some time at M1, and of course he was in the UFC, and now you guys are battling. He won 2 as well. Size up Rashid Magomedov for us. Where do you feel like are his strengths, and are you even one of those guys that concerns himself so much with that rather than just what you're there to do?
Yeah, man. I mean, Magomedov, he's actually been a guy that has trained at American Top Team for a long time, like myself, and we've had opportunities to train together. And he's for me, I think he's a very stoic guy, in the way he carries himself and the way that he competes, and just the way he treats people. And I respect him a great deal, as a person, as a competitor. I think he brings that same type of attitude into the fight. He's very stoic in the way he moves, in the way he operates, in the way he attacks and analyzes and breaks down the fights. And that sometimes can make you very linear, very straight line and very just very one-dimensional, almost. And I think sometimes he can slow himself down just by having such a stoic a characteristic or a character in regards to how he approaches fighting. But this is one of the things that makes him also an incredible threat, because he can analyze and break you down within seconds and be on you and create very difficult situations for you in the striking game. But he's a very talented guy. I have a great deal of respect for him. So it's one of those things where you can't overthink it. You got to let your coaches figure it out what you need to do, and just kind of go like that and be like a video game. My coaches have the controller; they direct me on where to go, and then you go that route. So that's the game plan.
Did both of you spend any or all of your time at Coconut Creek for this camp?
Yeah, I was there for the whole camp, and I think he came in and spent the last part of his camp there. So we were walking by each other, shaking hands, saying hello, stuff like that, keeping it cordial, respectful. I think we both are the two guys that respect this sport and will never go out of our way to disrespect this sport and cause any dishonor to our gym, and just make sure that we represent mixed martial arts for what it is and represent American Top Team for what it is, and we just respect each other. So it was very cordial, very understanding that this is the job, this is the business. There's no hard feelings that are mixed into this. So we had a very respectful training process.
Will Brooks is our guest here on MMAjunkie Radio. He fights on Saturday at PFL 9 versus Rashid Magomedov. This is a quarterfinal matchup, And remember, the winner will have to fight yet one more time because they're doing 2 fights in one night. All right, let me send it over to the guys in Vegas. Goes, what do you have for Will Brooks?
I love when Will Brooks is on the program because he always has that positive energy. I'm fired up now. Will, everybody knows how this next round is working here as far as how important that first round is. If it were to go to a decision, whoever wins round 1 will be the winner of the fight. That being said, I know in the past, in MMA in general, open scoring has been something that's been discussed. In this particular setting, would you like to know who won round 1? Would open scoring actually benefit in PFL?
Well, you know what? I think there's two sides to that. You know what I mean? Like, it's an exciting idea, but at the same time, it's like, all right, well, do you get guys that, well, I'll be like, or if they're thinking like, all right, I'll just steal the first round, right? And then I'll just hang out for the rest of the fight, or I'll steal whatever this round is, and then all of a sudden, like, say it's a 3-round fight. For example, this first fight that we have in the playoffs is 2 rounds. So is it like, all right, well, this guy's just going to steal that first round and then sit back and just hang around? Now you start taking away from, and again, this is a sport, but you also start taking away from the entertainment part of the sport also, you know. And you also, for me, I feel like this is a level playing ground. If you came here to compete against me, you put the training camp in, you put the work in, it's not right for me to, you know, it's a weird thing because, you know, we're trying to fight. The idea is to hit and not get hit. But at the same time, for me just to procrastinate and just pull back and run around and run away from you and not give you opportunity to compete, I feel like, you know, that's kind of, I don't know, like, it could work both ways. It could go well and then it could go poorly, and then you start having these issues of, well, the guy just beat me, but now he ran around for 15 minutes for the rest of the fight. But, you know, it's just kind of, I don't know, man.
I know your bracket, your side of the bracket, to me, is the tougher one. And your matchup in particular, I think having to break that down was a nightmare as well. Do you feel like the winner of the whole thing is going to at least, obviously I know you think it's you, but can we at least say it'll more than likely come from your bracket?
I'm sorry, say it again.
The winner of the entire playoff, I know that you're gonna say it's you, but can we also just say, let's just say it's not, would it come out of your bracket? Because it seems like your side of the bracket, to me, is more of a nightmare than the other side.
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. I've been, you know, you try to focus on one fight at a time, definitely, but also I've been looking at the rest of our bracket. I'm just like, damn, like, did they try to mix this up at all or what? Like, we got all the damn killers under one side of the bracket, and they were just like, hey, look, this is what we're going to do. We're just going to get real nutty on this side of the bracket, get all crazy, and just blow it up right away. And it's just like, all right, well, I guess if that's the direction that you want to go in, then you do that. But, you know, I don't know, man. It's going to get a little crazy, but I'm ready for everything, you know.
Let's send it over to our fight analyst, Dan Tom. Dan, what do you have for Will Brooks?
Hey, Will, I know you spoke a bit already on you know, Rashid Magomedov, and as well as, you know, sharing similar training grounds. But, you know, in your experience, this isn't the first time you've had to fight somebody who, you know, maybe has shared similar training grounds, so to speak. So can you tell me, you sound like you've got a great mindset heading into this fight, of course, but were there any maybe lessons in particular, you know, from those past experiences that you were able to take into this fight in the prep?
No, I wouldn't say so much anything that I was able to take away from, but as far as being like, oh, well, I trained with that guy, so he might know some things about me that I, like, not so much that, but more or less like, all right, well, I trained with the guy, I was beating him, and this is, you know, in reference to Nick Lentz. Like, that was one guy that I've ever fought, I believe, that has trained at the same gym with me, and, you know, I was winning that fight. I think one of the things that I do have to be conscious of is actually giving respect to the fact that, you know, he may notice some things that I don't do as well, or I may, you know, have a lapse of judgment at times, and he may catch something, you know. So it's one of those things where you have to be very conscious of the fact that, look, man, like, I kind of got to slow myself down a bit and try to be a little bit different than what we are doing typically in the gym. But at the same time, I am who I am. I can't go out there and limit my abilities and limit my skills because I'm like, oh, well, this guy's been watching me, he's been with me, he's seen me for a long time. I can't do that. I got to just go out there and compete and fight at the level that I need to fight at and just be ready to go, you know, and not hold back, you know. So that's kind of my approach to it.
Right on. And I guess kind of follow. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, George.
No, finish off then. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say, you know, as far as, you know, when you face these guys, Will, I mean, you face a lot of big names. You've beaten a lot of big names. Do you ever find yourself, you know, rooting for these guys or following their careers? After all, you are in the same division. But, you know, is there any of that? You want them to do well, of course, as a good human being, but also it does make you look a little better yourself, if you know what I'm saying.
No, not really. I've never really thought about it. I think overall I'm just more about the human being. You know, I understand that we're competing and we're fighting. This is our jobs, and, you know, as competitors, it sucks to lose to a guy. But overall, for me, the type of person I am, I just want people to be doing well as human beings, you know. And my idea is, if you're doing well as a human being, and you should be able to blend that over into what you're doing in the sport, you know. So it's always like, I'm always just happy for people to be winning, because things in life can go south very fast, you know. And look, like some of the times that we live in right now, you know, things can get very ugly politically, as far as politics, as far as religion, as far as people just treating other people properly in life, you know. So for me, I just always want people to just be doing well, because if you're doing well, that means that you're pushing that same energy out into the universe around you, pushing that energy onto other people, which is going to force other people or put other people in a position where they're just like, you know what, let me just love on my fellow human being, you know. So again, for me, it's just, I just want people to be great people overall. I separate from the fighting very easily, you know. So that's just my mindset and my approach to life in general, you know.
Will, just to finish things off here, who do you think you'll be facing in the finals? Who do you think will come out of the other bracket? It's Schulte versus Case, then Wade versus Watley, and then obviously the winners collide. Have you thought about that? And if so, who do you think will meet you in New York City on December 31st?
You know what? I'm not really sure on who will meet me, but the guy that I would love to get out there and just dog him out is that Chris Wade kid. I don't know. Like, he just bugs it. Like, you guys know me. You've had me on a few times. You know, I don't do a whole lot of talking crazy. I keep it straight and direct, you know. But that kid bugged the hell out of me when we first came with the PFL. We were in Orlando, and everybody's doing all the media stuff, and they're talking to us and telling us about how the PFL is going to work and all these different things. And all of a sudden, he just decided that he was the favorite and went on this little media run where he was telling everybody, like, oh, yeah, I'm considered the favorite by the promotion. I'm considered a favorite by the fans. And it's just like, yo, like, we don't even know the full roster yet of the guys that are in the lightweight, like, tournament. So how the hell are you the favorite already? And then you go out there in your first fight, and you just get roughed up like a small child. You get ragdolled. So it just kind of bugs the hell out of me. And even during this process, even after losing his first fight, he didn't humble himself. He still walked around here like he had like this attitude, like, I'm the man because I got this nice little clean comb-over little haircut that every other dude is wearing these days. So it just kind of bugs me. So I'm hoping that he's the guy in the finals, so when he can bring all his people with him and believe that he's the favorite, and I go out there and wreck his little dream, then people understand, like, look, man, like, we're a bunch of grown men. Don't disrespect us like that.
Damn. All right. I look forward to that. I'll be keeping an eye on that. I like spotting them little narratives or whatever. But first things first, Will, you got to obviously handle your bracket. I believe the winner of you and Rashid Magomedov could actually win the whole thing. I mean, you guys are high level guys competing at the highest level. You've worn a major strap with Bellator back in your time, so I'll definitely be keeping an eye on that one, and I'll be strapped in. I'm going to Long Beach to catch this event, so I can't wait. So thank you so much, as always, for your time. We appreciate it. I hope you have a safe weight cut, and we'll see you in 48 hours in Long Beach.
All right, man. Right on, man. Y'all take care. God bless.
All right, you too. We'll see you. There you have it, folks. That's Will Brooks, one of the participants at PFL 9. 8 of them will be down to 2, and those 2 will get the battle for $1 million. And the runner-up that night, December 31st, gets $200,000. So just getting through tonight assures you of at least $200,000 on December 31st. But of course, they're all eyeballing $1 million. Who wouldn't want to get 7 figures, a 7-figure wire to your bank account? All right, we got to take a break here. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM's Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
They are the stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tats. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Every NFL game is on SiriusXM tonight at 8:20 Eastern. The Eagles take on the Giants. Hear the Eagles call on Sirius 81, XM 226. The Giants on Sirius 83, XM 225, and the national broadcast is on SiriusXM NFL Radio Channel 88. You can also stream your team on the phone or at home on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. For a full list of game times and the channel listings, you want to go to SiriusXM.com/NFL schedule. And speaking of the Giants, let's bring in Ford from Las Vegas on line 6. What's up, Ford?
Guys, I don't want you guys to hang up on me before I get a chance to say fuck the Cowboys. But
you can always get that one.
I got two things. Number one, can we stop with the Dylan Dennis lie? Unless he's Jimmy Mouth of the South Hart, there's no way that Khabib from the other side of the octagon could hear what this guy is saying all the way on the opposite side as loud as that crowd was. He turned around as soon as he stood up and started yawing at him and started pointing at him through his shit and all that stuff. So we can get that excuse right out of the way. The other thing is as far as this whole Khabib trying to strong-arm the UFC, why in the world would you allow an example to be set over a couple of no-name Russian fighters and let the entire roster know that, hey, if you just threaten to do this or threaten to do that, that the UFC is just going to cave? I don't think that's a good example at all. I don't think they back down.
All right, my man. Thank you very much for the call. Listen, we're up against the end of the top of the hour, but I will have the guys answer and give their thoughts on that call when we come back. It's the top of the hour break. It's just 60 seconds long, so we'll be back after that, and then we'll hook up with Josh Copeland, who was already one of the ones that secured his spot for December 31st at PFL 11. Stay close. We'll be right back. MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, Channel 93.
Do what they say, and your life will be a lot better. Here are Gorgeous and Goes.
All right, just want to make sure, Goes, Las Vegas gang, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, all right, we're good. Let's answer that question real fast from Ford. We'll get to Josh Copeland in just a couple minutes.
All
right. He brought up the point of UFC, should they buckle? After hearing Khabib's threat. That was one thing. And as far as Dylan Dennis, I think John addressed it once. Maybe we can do it again. John, what do you know of if Dylan Dennis said nothing or not? Because I also saw the piece on MMA Junkie earlier where he's saying I said nothing of the sort.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's saying he said nothing, and I agree with the point that, I don't believe Khabib could have picked that out. I was cage side. I certainly didn't hear anything. I was hearing the roar of the crowd. I mean, that building was pretty electric at the moment. So I tend to agree with that. I mean, acoustics are a little bit different from inside the cage. I will say this, and I don't know if it's a conscious thing from the UFC or not, but I have been monitoring their pay-per-view feed, and it doesn't have the alternate camera angles on there yet or the alternate audio feeds yet because I've really been wanting to hear the mic'd-up coaches and all that, and they haven't added that feature yet. So I'm kind of intrigued by that. But I do kind of agree with that. I don't think that there was something that was set off in the moment. I think maybe – I don't want to say that it was premeditated by Khabib. I mean, he certainly could have seen body language. He certainly could have looked over and started yelling and seen Dylan like, waving him in, even if he didn't hear the words that were coming out. So that's certainly.
And that we can see.
Yeah, that we
can see him waving them now.
Take an educated guess, though, that as long as his lips are moving, it's probably not, hey, you had a great performance.
Congratulations, Habib. You look fantastic
I don't really
tonight.
think it mattered what he said. It was just the fact that his mouth was moving.
Here I was just trying to tell the guy that his wrestling was really on point, and he came over and jumped at me.
I had to hear like the exact wordage to kind of figure out that it probably wasn't something.
I gave him the thumbs up, and then I showed him my hands, no weapons. Listen, and as far as the UFC caving, I mean, I don't think this is really the time for the UFC to dig their heels in and say, absolutely not, we're not folding at all. I mean, I do believe there's compromise to be made. I mean, things change over days and, circumstances and when everybody cools off. So, I just don't think they want Habib walking away over this. I don't think that would make a lot of sense.
And I wanted to clean up one other thing. When I looked at the calendar, by the way, there are only, it seems like to me, 3 weekends that make sense. April 13th, April 20, and April 27. May 4th is one more day before Ramadan, and Habib is very religious. He takes it serious. He actually makes the pilgrimage to Mecca for this. So I just don't see him hopping on a red eye just to be there, you know what I mean? And then the other one would be April 6th, except that's the official date of when I think the suspension ends, so why cut it that close? So the 13th, 20th, and 27th, it could possibly happen. You know what? Another thing is the 6 months. Whether you give him 6 or 9 or a year, I think people just want to see him get fined. I think a heavy fine will send the message and appease those that just are always out for blood. You know what I mean? When fighters fuck up. So, and Dana White says he thinks it'll be $250,000. Who knows what it'll be? But I think that'll be heavy. But I really think we can get past all this. I think they can still compromise. Keep those fighters in there, because once mayhem ensued, a lot of people made a lot of mistakes. You know what I mean? So now that they've had a chance to review the footage, I think keep those fighters there, but for sure don't have him and Artem Lobov fight. Although I got a message sent to me from Marcus from Atlanta, Artem Lobov wants to teach him a lesson and punish him himself. He wants to keep the fight going. So who knows? Who knows what'll happen? But that's what makes this sport so zany. And by the way, I was right. Ariel Helwani had tweeted something out, and that followed Habib and Conor McGregor's coach, John Kavanagh, in terms of talking about RDA. We mentioned it earlier, and I think that's what we spotted, John, you and I. But there we're talking about it for next year. I really don't want to wait a whole year for that. Go ahead, John, and make your point, and then we'll take one last call from Marco before we get to Josh Copeland.
I was going to say, I did see the Artem Lobov tweet, by the way. I also saw the Marlon Moraes tweet and a couple other tweets. I think Ali and his crew are busy using their guys' social media right now, so we'll see if they're able to do anything about keeping Zubaira in there.
All right, Marco from Waco, what's up, buddy?
Marco from Waco, bro. ¿Qué pasa, datos? Man, you got a full crew there today. Hey, a little annoyed with the coach, which is 7, that freaking triangle move that Habib, that is so easy. We got Olympic-level wrestlers, Joel Romero, Henry Seguro, Daniel Cormier, his own teammate, Cain Velasquez, Randy Couture, Van Henderson, none of them, Olympic-level wrestlers, pull that freaking move. Khabib does it. He was so freaking easy. How come only Khabib is the one that can pull it off? That annoys the shit out of me. He's really good at that move. Just give the guy credit. Maybe as out, because that thing I heard, what couldn't we call Tony the Wolverine freaking Ferguson to freaking sub in? Just an idea. That's it. ESPN, oversaturation for next year, not for the casuals, man, because in total, we got 10 freaking proper fights on ESPN, plus the pay-per-view that is 22 fights on proper TV. The 20 fights on the behind the paywall ESPN Plus are for hardcores. And those fights, I tell you right now, the ones on the ESPN Plus are going to suck. They're going to be the fights in Shanghai or Poland with names that we don't fucking recognize. And the ones with all the name value are going to be the ones on the ESPN proper and the pay-per-views. Peace out.
Take an aspirin, please.
There you go.
I'm worried. Wow. Jesus Christ.
I do. I will say, man, Tony Ferguson stepping in would be fantastic, but I mean, I just can't see Nate signing a new bout agreement and all that, and it just.
I will say though, if George is right, and it comes down to the 6th, the 20th, or the other date, if it's the 20th, I'm calling it now. Khabib versus Nate Diaz. First he beats whiskey, now he beats weed.
All right, let's get to our next guy. Josh Copeland. Now, so we're talking about all these guys fighting at PFL 9. They got to fight twice, and then the winner, of course, makes it to an event called PFL 11 where they could be fighting for $1 million. Josh Copeland, that's all in his rearview mirror. He's done. He did all that this past week, this past Friday. He will be fighting for the $1 million prize in the heavyweight division. He joins us now on the hotline. What's up, Josh? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Very, very blessed.
And to think your first PFL fight was a loss, and you bounced back, with a couple of wins there, and now you got, December 31st ahead of you where you'll be fighting for $1 million, but you've already secured $200,000. Very, very nice turnaround, and all that happened within a half year. You know what I mean? So that was quite a turnaround. It's a pretty cool story.
Yes, sir. That's to me, it's so surreal. I'm still in shock, and I can't believe things unfolded the way they did, and man, it's crazy to be where I'm at right now.
Yeah, for sure. You ended by starching Alex Nicholson, so you're taking a lot of momentum. The first one was a draw, but of course, we know how that works. But then when you had the chance to actually cement it, you did starch Alex Nicholson. Talk about that. Talk about your frame of mind. Is this the most confident you've been, maybe even in your whole MMA career?
No, I would say so. And I know for me, I just kind of got in the mindset, let's kill or be killed. Let's the last thing that I want to be known as is a boring fighter. And for me, I wanted to pick up the tempo, and I wanted to go out there and I mean, ultimately we're performers, and we're there to put on a show, and I wanted to, I wanted to knock him out for sure. And I definitely, I thought Alex Nicholson was the weak link in the chain too. He's dangerous just because he does come to fight, and he throws some random stuff, but I don't think he sets stuff up good. I think he comes in with his chin straight up, and man, I love when guys come forward, and I definitely love when that chin's in the air.
How about the fact that the PFL has, they have been very adamant about the fact that we have a regular season and a playoff, and let's say we parallel the NFL, you and Jack May had a fight. You lost the regular season game, but in the playoffs, your team advanced. And we see that a lot in the NFL. Did you feel like the stakes got higher and the pressure mounted as you guys now got in what they were calling the playoff? How did that whole night feel for you mentally and physically?
Man, it's to be honest, I'm blown away with the PFL, and I'm not trying to do any kind of sucking up or anything. From the regular season, the fact that I lose to Jack May, man, I didn't have time to have a little pity party. Didn't have time to get depressed. I knew that I was fighting 6 weeks from that day. Time to go home, get back to work, and get ready. And then same aspect when I'm sitting there on the cusp of either being in the playoffs or not, and sitting there watching Mike Kyle and Alan Carr fight, knowing that I needed to go to a decision. And man, it's like anything. Every single one of us are good enough. We just need that opportunity. We need that, to go out there, have a little luck on our side. Thankfully, I got the cut in the second fight, not the first fight. And man, my mindset. I'm blown away with the opportunities that PFL has given us fighters.
So am I. It was fun when they threw, the whole concept out earlier this year. It's all played out. It's fun to watch, and it's kind of really cool to hear your excitement. You could hear it in your voice. Obviously, your life could change on December 31st. I do want to say two other things. There is, the consolation prize, if you want to call it that. The show money for both of you is at least the $200,000. You're basically fighting for another $800,000. So the winner will go home with $1 million. So it can be life-changing for that gentleman as well. And also, not to take anything away from Jack May, you all went out there and fought your heart out. It was just an example I was giving because it often happens in the NFL. All right, let me turn it over to the guys over in Vegas. Let's start off with Goes. Goes, what do you have for Josh Copeland?
Josh, yesterday Carlos Silva had shared with with us that basically those guys who advanced are given an opportunity for the next season if they want to come back. That being said, what would you say is the biggest lesson that you learned at the beginning of this playoff? I know there's the cool down period that a lot of fighters were trying to figure out how they would play. Is there one particular lesson that you could say you learned from all of this?
Are you talking about just the playoffs?
Yeah,
in particular?
just the playoffs in particular.
Man, to me, it's crazy how life is, and we're always learning. And I'll say the thought of having multiple fights in one night was that weighed heavy on me. Just because it's not about go out there win or lose. It's go out there, try not to take too much damage, because you got to turn around and fight again. And man, I remember after fighting Francismar, I go to the back and I pull my coaches aside and I tell them, man, I think I jacked up my right hand, and every time I'd move it, and man, I was thankful to have Ryan Schultz there. He was the 3-time 155 IFL champion, and he's actually fought 8-man tournament in one night, and he beat Roger Huerta to be the champ that night. And man, just to have someone in my corner who's done it, and just listening to how, Josh, when you go out there, I promise you won't feel it. You'll use it, and this and that. And man, sure enough, when I went out there, I didn't feel a thing. I just wanted to knock him out, put on a show, and yeah, I'm so glad it turned out that way.
That was going to be my next question. Is a lot of times fighters, even in victories, will tell us it takes about 24 hours to 48 hours to really assess what their body has been through. And sometimes injuries that they didn't know they had the night of pop up. You mentioned the hand. How is the hand? And was there anything else that came up out of this fight?
No, but you're absolutely right. When I remember leaving the ER that night, and anyone who's been to the ER knows that it's never a quick process. So it once I got stitched up and I'm getting back in the big SUV that's driving us around, man, the adrenaline is starting to wear off, and yeah, I'm starting to feel my sides, my legs, everything. But for me, doctor checked out my hand, and it's good to go. I'd say another week off, and I'll be thrown again and ready to rock and roll.
That's good news to hear. All right, Josh Copeland, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He'll be battling Philippe Lins at PFL 11 on December 31st. They will compete for $1 million. PFL 9 is on Saturday in Long Beach, California. Don't forget to get at Goes and I at MMA Junkie George at the Goes. We have some tickets to give away, but we're running out of them. Let's move it over to the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Dan, what do you have for Josh Copeland?
Hey, Josh, kind of on the similar notes as before, as far as, prep, going through the tournament, and even after effects, I guess I want to ask you more along the lines of the hot word here would be cut. As far as, you sustained a cut, but also beforehand, you had a really good cut man, or the best cut man, I should say, in your corner, Stitch, it looks like from your Instagram. How important was it, I guess, going into battle, knowing, making sure you're getting, a proper hand wrap and having a proper cut man in your corner, and then, of course, B, how are you doing? You seem to be in great spirits, obviously, but how are you doing there with the cut that you did sustain in battle?
So in regards to the cut, man, the doctor said that they could see my skull, so it was definitely as deep as it could go, and that's why the doctors wanted me to go to the ER, just because apparently they're better at doing stitches there, and it was comforting to me to hear the ER doctor look at it, do all these muscle tests, making sure my eyebrows work, I'm able to blink and do all this stuff. And he looked it over and he's like, Josh, honestly, it's deep, but it is the way it's split, it's perfect. All your muscles are still intact, and he's all, it's going to heal back completely perfect. So, yeah, I wound up getting 3 stitches on the inside and 10 on the outside, and man, it's even being out here in LA, a lot of the fighters are coming up. A lot of the PFL guys are looking at it, and they're blown away with just how good it looks already. So, and then yeah, man, it's especially we see all the time in MMA when guys do get crazy nasty cuts, and man, it's so important to have professionals like Stitch and all these guys to get in there, stop the bleeding, so that the fight doesn't get called over something like that. So, I mean, I know that's an obvious answer, but it's definitely great to be with an organization that's willing to bring in the true professionals to make sure that we can continue to battle.
Josh, will everything stay the same, or will this camp be just a little bit extra special with, extra training partners, or are you going to do anything to take it to the proverbial next level, nutritionist, strength and conditioning, or anything else, or are you going to go with what got you there?
No, so, I mean, for me, for the most part, nothing's going to change. It's cool being able to train with Curtis Blades and Alistair Overeem now. I will say once I knew for sure that I made it in the tournament and I was guaranteed that 50K, I did hire a nutritionist, and I hired a food company to prepare all my meals. And man, the way I was able to drop fat, keep the muscle, in 4 weeks I was able to drop 5% body fat, and just eating clean and more than I'd ever had before. Just it's nice to be able to not just fly by the seat of my pants and, oh, I'm hungry, let's go get some Chipotle. It's nice to actually have it timed out. Somebody that actually knows my training schedule, and hey, you're going to eat this at this time, you eat this here, this there. And for me, when it comes to the training, I'll say the only thing that I'm going to do is be extra smart, extra safe. It's so important to make it to New Year's Eve. And what a lot of people don't realize and understand is that most injuries occur during practice, not in the fight. And I mean, usually fights, you're either getting knocked out or you're getting cuts, and that's about the worst thing that happens in a fight. And for the most part, your knees get blown out, your shoulders, your neck, your back, all this stuff gets jacked up through training, through partners running into the back of you, and and I'm gonna dot my I's and cross my T's there to just make sure that I do make it healthy to New York City. And yeah, that's besides that, I'm keeping my same coaches. I'm keeping everything. Just get ready to rock and roll.
Sounds good to me. And I got to come clean. I'm actually having Chipotle after lunch, so that's why I'm not in these tournaments.
We got to know what his order is, though, right, George?
Yeah, when you go to Chipotle, what do you order, by the way? Are you a steak guy? Are you a chorizo guy? Or chicken? What do you?
No, so I usually always get the bowl. Get the rice, the beans. I get the fajitas. I love those fajitas. So good. And
brown rice or white rice, black beans or refried. Come on, Josh, bring it.
So I'll and it depends on if it's right after practice. I'll go with the white rice just to get more of the quick acting carbs. But normally I'll do the brown rice. I'll do the black beans, the fajitas, and then just depending on what promotion I'm with and how much they're paying, I'll either add guacamole or not. Dude, I love their guacamole. And I always do the corn. Their corn's so sweet, and I think it tastes good. And do the tomatoes,
hot sauce?
whatever that,
or the green sauce.
So I'll do the, what is it called? Pico de gallo.
Pico. All right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And then man, I always my hot sauce is the smoked Tabasco sauce over by the drink section.
There you go. Do you double up on the meat or just one serving?
Oh, yeah, I didn't cover that. So I'll, and same thing, depending on what promotion I'm fighting with and what they're paying, I'll either double up on the meat or I'll ask for the chicken, and then I'll be like, oh, could I actually do half chicken, half steak? That way I only have to pay for one serving. But usually they give me a double serving.
Can I give you another tip?
There you go.
Josh, here's what
Absolutely.
you do. When it comes to guacamole, before they ask, just mumble guacamole. When they put it on, go, hey, what's that? And they'll say guacamole and say, no, I asked if you guys have mole. And then just say, oh, no, but it's cool, whatever. I don't want to ruin the bowl. And that's how you get it for free, dog.
Oh, that brings a smile to my heart, and I will try that.
Something tells me that after December 31st, you'll be a double chicken guy going forward. It won't matter anymore. But
then.
Congratulations, Josh, on your successful run this summer in PFL, the regular season, the playoffs, and we look forward to watching your fight on the 31st. Thank you, as always, for your time here on MMA Junkie Radio.
Yeah, it goes both ways, guys. I appreciate you guys taking time for me, so thank you.
All right, have a good one. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. All right, folks, we're going to take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM's Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close, and we'll be back with Herschel Walker.
Here we go, yo. Here we go, yo.
Do what they say, and your life will be a lot better. Here are Gorgeous and Goes.
NBA training camps are open, and each night at 7 Eastern, check out NBA Radio's team preview shows. Tonight, you can hear from the stars of the Chicago Bulls. Then at 8 Eastern, it's the Sacramento Kings. Hear them on NBA Radio, Sirius 207, XM86, and streaming on your phone or at home on Sirius XM connected devices and speakers. Shout out to the LA Lakers. They took out the Golden State Warriors by double digits yesterday in Las Vegas. Goes, did you get to that game?
I didn't. I did get to see it on TV a little bit, and it looked pretty cool.
Little weird to see LeBron donning the purple and gold, but that's it. I mean, he signed a 4-year contract. Time to get used to it.
Yeah, I'm not too thrilled about it, but whatever. I think I'll probably end up getting over it. It's nice to see the old uniforms back, though. I kind of dig that.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, real quick, as we get our next guest on, and then Josh, at any point, just let me know when we do. Going back to Jordan Johnson, I thought about it a little bit. Is his best negotiating point just, hey, I'm 10-0 overall, 4-0 in the UFC. Again, I'm undefeated, guys. Like, that's a big asset to have. You know what I mean? It's just something that people gravitate to no matter what. When you can say that someone's undefeated, at least through the 10 fights, that carries some weight.
It definitely carries it more in mixed martial arts than it does in boxing. You could be 27-0 in boxing and still kind of be unproven. But it really just comes down to what John was saying, and that's like, are people going to buy this because of you? And sometimes you just
you're right.
have to cut your teeth in the UFC to get those type of prices. And it's just, man, I would say maybe it's a gut feeling from the brass. If they really see a guy with a lot of potential, maybe they'll do it. But even then, I don't even see them caving too much.
That's something for sure we don't know is what number he threw out, what number the UFC threw out. So for Kevin to just come in and say, things aren't going his way, and not immediately blame the UFC, we don't know, because this guy may have just been out of the realm of reason. But either way, I give a serious look to a guy that's 10-0, coming off a finish, 4-0 in my promotion. You know what I mean? I think that's someone you can get behind, because all he needs now is that patented top 10 win, top 15 win. And, to use a pro wrestling term, the other guy losing to you puts you over.
I feel you, George. I definitely feel you. But something else, I guess, about Kevin's call was he was kind of equating that to, the whole complaint of, which people will tie into rankings, or the UFC rankings at least, and say, we're not enough of a sport. We need to act more of a sport as far as decisions like the ones we're talking about. But whether we're talking about backing a guy or re-signing a guy, and again, you guys jump in here, you're more avid sports fans than me, but even in other sports, maybe their rankings or whatever maybe are more solidified for whatever that's worth. But as far as favoring teams and stuff, it's not like we haven't seen this before, whether it's promotion, whether it's laxing on the rules or commissions. I mean, this isn't anything new, right, guys?
Right.
Deflated balls.
I don't know, man. It's confusing to me. No one's ever revealed, I guess, what one can bargain for, on their behalf. What's a strength of theirs? The other day, I think I said something about social media, and someone tried to laugh me out of the room. I didn't say it's the end all be all. It's a component, though.
It's a
if
number.
You have a lot of followers and a huge following, people will pay attention. That goes. So when are people going to come in, more business oriented and just not sit down there wearing a tap out shirt saying, "Hey, pay me"? If you come in, suit and tie, and you've done some due diligence and some research, and you have a smart guy in a suit sitting next to you saying, "This is what we have to offer," that's how you grab their attention.
That's absolutely a big part of it. I mean, your record, of course, is number one. I mean, your fighting ability. You can't go out and lose 10 fights in a row and be like, yeah, but I got a great social media following. People are going to want to tune in. You got to win fights. But, yeah, I think that's what takes it to the next level. I mean, going in and say, hey, listen, I'm 10-0, I'm 4-0 in your organization, that's impressive. But if you can say, and, I generate this amount of views in terms of my social media reach. I've got this many Instagram. I know that sounds bizarre, and I mean, it may sound terrible for a professional athlete to have to worry about that, but that's the way this game is structured, man.
It's weird because not in the UFC, more so than other organizations, not only do you have to win, but you have to impress, right? Like, how many times have we seen guys on incredible streaks? You know how hard it is to win 8 fights straight and still, like, didn't Dennis Bermudez, I think, at one point had an 8-fight win streak, and he was barely like, should we put him maybe near a contenders matchup, or sometimes you get lost in the shuffle, too.
Yeah, and something else about Jordan Johnson in particular, maybe, John, you can speak of. I mean, I'm sure he's only had 4 fights, granted, but so I don't know how much experience you've had interviewing him, but he's a guy who, if anybody's seen his post-fight interviews, are awkward is kind of an understatement, the way he puts himself off. And I don't know if it's like an on-purpose thing or he's really just embracing his personality per se, but and I don't mind it. I'm not coming at him, but in what we're talking about, I don't think it's going to help him necessarily.
Yeah. No, I think he even admitted in Russia that he was basically like, well, I didn't really like talking to you guys, and now I realize it's kind of part of the deal, and I got to do it, you know, and it is. I mean, that's part of the gig.
Let me ask another question. Is it the UFC's fault if a guy like Jordan Johnson comes in and let's just say the UFC's already got a number. All right, we're going to pay this guy 40 and 40 in his next contract. But if he comes in going, hey, man, just pay me my 30 and I'll be happy, is it the UFC's fault if some of these guys are underprepared? You know, and I'm going back to not just him and that fictitious number, but all the other fighters that have maybe gone in there before and just not fought for themselves until a guy like Conor started fighting for himself. What are your thoughts there?
No, the UFC's not wrong. I mean, have you ever been in a job salary negotiation where you came in with a number and your boss was like, you know what, George? I appreciate where you're coming from, but you're undervaluing yourself, buddy. Let's pop you up another 10%.
Exactly.
You know? No, hell no.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And see, the fans will blame the UFC for exploiting them all these years, you know. But I just look at it as, well, it's business, and you didn't come in. You know, Frank Trigg used to say you're worth what you negotiate. A lot of people didn't negotiate as good as they could have, apparently, because there's been some money there to hand out, you know, for a lot of fighters. I wonder how much they've missed out on all these years.
Quite a bit. No, there's no question about it. It is interesting, though. I mean, you know, there's not a lot of bidders in the marketplace, so I do think you have to be careful the way you handle things. You know, I don't think you want to burn bridges and have any doors closed to you because, you know, Bellator is flush with money right now. They got that DAZN money, so they're starting to, you know, sign some free agents and toss some cash out here and there. But there's not a ton of bidders on the marketplace, so I do think you have to be, if you're a fighter, you should fight for what's yours, but you do have to be very careful that you don't necessarily burn bridges along the way.
Brett Primus and Michael Chandler have finally agreed, it looks like. They'll be fighting at the Salute the Troops event in Honolulu, in Honolulu, Hawaii. So I'm glad that one's finally booked because this is 18 months later, guys, and this isn't really a stacked division. You know, it's not like there's a lot of names to choose from. I was wondering what took so long.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's been injuries along the way. They tried to get it together before, and it hasn't happened. I'm glad it's done. Javier Ayala versus Frank Mir is the co-main event of that card as well. But pretty cool. I mean, exciting, first of all, that there's a lightweight title fight, and that's getting done. But secondly, I mean, back-to-back shows in Honolulu for Bellator, man. Pretty cool stuff, you know. Then Salute the Troops show is awesome. You know, it's very much like the Fight for the Troops shows that the UFC has done. It's going to be filled with troops and their families and that sort of thing. But back-to-back shows in Honolulu. So I'm anxious to see what the MMA Junkie travel schedule is because we don't have any assignments done for that yet, and it will be December. And at least one reporter will be assigned to doing back-to-back shows in Honolulu, where another reporter will be assigned to Milwaukee, which is the same Saturday night. So, no. I mean, God bless the UFC show, man. I mean, that's a great main event, right? Kevin Lee and Al Iaquinta, like, you know, like our Vegas boy Kevin Lee in there, and of course Al's always fun to cover. But when you're talking about December and you're either in Milwaukee or Honolulu, I have a feeling I know where everybody's going to be putting their bids in to go.
I want to do a split screen. Where those two reporters are. And now we're going to go to blank in Hawaii. One guy bundled up and the other guy in Hawaii.
One's holding the mic out on the beach and the other's just shivering.
It'll be like the BJ Penn George St. Pierre primetime, the first one, just going back and forth between junkie locales.
That'll be great.
That's right. I remember that build-up. That was the first of the real super fights, man.
Hey, you know what, George,
yeah, so it is back-to-back events on the same weekend of the last Fox show. Go ahead, guys.
Speaking of build-up, Bellator is actually really good at the way they promote these type of fights. And I think with a fight like Chandler and Primus, and there's so much history between those two, I'm very much looking forward to how they're going to promote that fight because I think it can do a really good job of it.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Well, I mean, for one, they got the bad blood, so we'll just start from there. And then, of course, they have the controversial footage. I don't think it sounded like both guys were healthy in the spring. They already should have had their second fight either by now, and December could honestly be a trilogy, but whatever. Can't worry about all that. Here's another fight booking, guys. Sergio Pettis returns the bantamweight to Rob Font on that final Fox card, which is UFC on Fox 31. So not only did he throw it out there, Duke Rufus, that Sergio would be returning, the fight booking's already made. And I wonder if Anthony, after that battering he took, he probably can't make it to Milwaukee with a shattered hand. Is there more definition on that shattered hand yet, John? Have you heard anything?
No, I haven't heard any follow-up yet. But, yeah, I got to think, I haven't heard him tossing his name out there or anything like that. So I got to think that's probably going to be off the table. I imagine they'll have him as a guest fighter there doing a little PR and that sort of thing. But I just can't imagine after what he went through that he'd be able to turn it around in 2 months.
Right. Sajara Eubanks will fight at UFC 230 after all. She's just not getting the fight that she wanted. I'm glad she cooled her heels, though, a little bit. What's that?
I was going to say, I think it's the least that could happen, but I understand why she was so pissed off. But anytime you attack the brass like that, and in public, I'm actually surprised she even got that.
She got lucky. I think this is good. I mean, I like we talked about, man, I understand her frustration. I mean, for them to come in and be like, Sajara, guess what? Title shot, baby. You down for this? Yeah, I'm down. I signed my contract. You know what? Just kidding. Not doing that after all. Like, I get it, man. It sucks for her, but I will say I'm glad they put her on the card. She was counting on that paycheck. It's definitely not the opportunity that she wanted, but they still got her fight, so that's good. But, again, we just talked about burning bridges, man. Whoo, she was going scorched earth out there, man. You got to be careful. I'm glad it worked out for her, but good Lord, I mean, for you to just put the whole crew on blast like that.
Does she get a little bit of compensation, John, do you think, on the back end? Only because, look, we just interviewed Josh Copeland, and we saw how much more serious he's taking his fight. He's already hired a nutritionist.
Right.
She could have done things like that, rented, whatever, an Airbnb or got a nutritionist, added people to her team. Do they get compensated?
If you go talk to it, they'll talk on a case-by-case basis. Yeah. I mean, if you went to them and were like, look, I already paid out $10,000 because I thought I was getting ready for this title fight. I've already lined it up. It's made my deposits. I don't get it back. They're usually pretty reasonable about that stuff. As much as everybody loves to hate on the UFC, and I get it, man. They're easy targets sometimes, and they do some dumb stuff sometimes. They're usually pretty good about stuff like that. If you come to them and say, look, here's what happened. I'm not trying to come up on you right now. Like, can you make this right for me?
Here's what happened, Playboy.
Yeah, exactly. They'll usually help you out.
And this is a good week to do it, coming off 2.5 million pay-per-views and a $17 million gate, right?
Dana's just, whatever. Here, whatever you need. Just go away.
Here's a chip from my blackjack table. All right. How about this Jones and Gustafson? John, that's done, right? In Las Vegas, UFC 232. And I imagine my second part question would be, it will be for the light heavyweight title, because with DC busy now versus Lewis and then Lesnar on the horizon, I mean, is that just a matter of it being official if it isn't already?
Yeah, I think so. I dig it. I mean, it's done. It's going to happen, and I think it's the right call. I mean, it's I heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, come on, man, Jones is coming off the suspension. You're putting him right back in a title fight." I mean, DC, I'm not going to say he wasn't going to defend the light heavyweight title, but I think we kind of all knew, right? Like, once he won the heavyweight belt, and you announced this Lewis matchup, but even before that, when you had Lesnar, I don't think he was going to try to cut down to 205 anytime soon. So I think it makes sense to go ahead and take that 205-pound title off of him. If he sticks to his guns, he's going to retire in March. So I think that's okay. And look, it's John Jones, man. He's a phenomenal fighter. He really is. And if you read the USADA agreement, if you go by what it says, twice now they've said we do not believe he purposely cheated. And yes, he got suspended twice, and yes, he's had to deal with all this. But if you go by what they say, they're saying we do not believe he purposely cheated. And if he did not purposely cheat, I think it's okay to put him back in a title fight. I understand the controversy behind it, but let's be honest. I mean, the dude is a phenomenal fighter. Could potentially be considered the greatest pound-for-pound fighter of all time if he hadn't had all this time off and he'd been racking up wins. I think he's the greatest pound-for-pound talent I don't know if he should be ranked pound for pound number one because he's got to get those wins. But I think this is the right fight to make. This is a fight we've all wanted to see. We've all wanted to see this rematch. I think, it's a screwed up path we took to getting here, but I think ultimately it's the right decision.
And for Alex Gustafsson, you got to imagine that this is probably the best case scenario for him to get him right now. We all saw how that OSP fight went.
Yep.
I think Alex could have got him that night.
I agree.
Think Cormier could have got him that night. So we'll see what adjustments John Jones makes. But I think Alex has got to be really excited at this opportunity.
Yeah, and it's a great story. We don't get that many of those, or if we do, they seem to get pulled apart for other matchups these days. So I'm definitely with you as far as embracing the silver lining of that.
All right, guys, let's take our last break, get that out of the way. If we have to, we'll reroute Herschel Walker to tomorrow's show. I spoke to him today, so I don't know, so maybe something came up at the last minute. But let's do this. We'll pay our bills. We'll take this break, and we'll come back, sail into the finish line. It's MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM. Fight Nation 93.
What we're living in, let me tell ya.
Let's see. Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, start. You told me that code would get rid of them. Yeah, well, they're still here. Okay, but now they know I tried to kill them. Hold on, Mom. Here Georgian goes.
Every NFL game is on SiriusXM. Tonight at 8:20 Eastern, the Eagles take on the Giants. Hear the Eagles call on Sirius 81, XM 226, and the Giants on Sirius 83, XM 225. The national broadcast can be heard on Sirius XM NFL Radio Channel 88, or stream your team on your phone or at home on Sirius XM connected devices and speakers. For a full list of game times, channel listings, go to SiriusXM.com/schedule. All right, we got a caller, I believe. Abe is still there with us, Josh?
Yes, sir.
Let's punch him in. What's up, Abe? How you doing?
Or maybe not.
Abe, are you with us? Huh, all right, maybe not.
Full
all right,
score in 7 years.
I want to give a shout out to Rolly Estrada from the YouTube chat. Knuckle Up 101. Byron Kirkpatrick. He's asking, no Diaz fight now. The answer to that is no Diaz fight at UFC 230. John, is there an update on that as far as even 2018 at all? Or do you think we just have to turn the page and see that cat next year?
Yeah, I'd turn the page, unfortunately. Maybe they can get him on something by the end of the year, but I don't think everybody's really enjoying dealing with Nate right now, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Juan Ramirez as well. He is also in the chat. Jason Ford, Kevin from Chicago, and Kate. All right, guys. By the way, now that all this nonsense is past us, I shouldn't call it that, but the best fight card ever, followed by some nonsense. Is there a fight now that you can pin on the calendar and go, that's the one I'm looking forward to the most, just to close out the year?
It was Poirier and Nate.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Mine's now probably Jones and Gus. It would have been Holloway and Ortega, and I'm not trying to put any bad juju, but I think with all the Max Holloway scares, we're just more worried about his health, and then as a fan, we're more worried about these big fights actually happening. So I guess I'm not allowing myself to get as excited as I want to be for that one.
I'd say Jones Cormier, but that Holloway Ortega is right behind it for me, man. That's a phenomenal fight.
It is.
I feel like this Derek Lewis fight is going to be a little better than we think. I think it's going to have a little bit of drama, maybe a couple, because Daniel does get hit from time to time, and I don't know that he could absorb too many Derek Lewis shots.
Oh, no.
So I think it'll have a little bit of drama. Kind of looking forward to that one. I'm definitely not looking forward to turning in a staff pick, that's for sure.
Yeah, I just want to add something real quick to that fight. We were talking about analysis for it. I will just say one thing. It's hard to knock someone out with a broken hand. It's also hard to complete a choke with a broken hand. And you look at Daniel Cormier's path to victories against guys that maybe you get tired and wear on that back injury, sure. But Derek Lewis brings up a really good point. For a guy that you're not going to get hard-pressed to get any analysis or serious answers from him. I remember a couple interviews back, he said this, and if you look back on his record, it's really true. He does really well when guys try to wrestle him. It's guys who try to actually stand and strike with him who do the best against him. And even you could say that for his last fight against Volkov, which he won, but Volkov was doing what Travis Brown failed to keep doing that got him success, or what Mark Hunt kept doing to eventually get success over Derek Lewis. You go back and look at it. Mitrione beat him, and you look at the guys who tried to wrestle him, that's where they got into trouble. Specialists like Victor Pesta, or even veterans like Roy Nelson. So it's very interesting things to keep in mind.
By the way, did you guys see Nurmi and his dad got together with Vladimir Putin?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Saw that picture.
Yeah,
sipping
that
tea
was,
or
man.
something, right?
He's Russian when they want to enjoy things. He's Dagestani when they don't.
Wow, yeah, there we go.
It's kind of how they look at it over there.
The names Holloway and Ortega came up, and Max was asked, so what happened? And he said, hey, we basically cleared the fact that it was related to a weight cut or to any form of a concussion. But there still aren't any answers, guys. He did say, though, he went through a depression. How do you guys feel about all this? I mean, I guess if they're doing the tests, I get it, but I don't know. I'm glad Ortega was able to work that into his contract, though. One way or another, I am fighting for a world title, but I'm still concerned about Max. He's one of the guys that he's been really, really fun to cover, and there was just more answers.
Yeah, no, I spoke with him yesterday, and I'll actually play the audio of the interview on the MMA Roadshow when I tape that tonight. But I put up a story yesterday. And, yeah, man, it's wild. He's like, hey, I'm feeling good. I'm like, so what did happen? I mean, what was it? And he's like, don't know. And I'm like, so how do you make sure it doesn't happen again? Don't Don't know, but I'm feeling good. So, yeah, it was, he said, listen, man, they checked it out. It's not concussion related. It wasn't weight cut related. He said I think he was still eating like 2,500 calories a day at that point, so it wasn't like he had stopped eating. He was drinking water, and he just doesn't know what happened. He said, but, none of the symptoms have come back since. He's been through a battery of tests. They regulated how he trained for a while, and now he's back to full training. And he says, listen, I'm good to go. I think I'm fine. So, it was interesting. I was really appreciated him kind of opening up on mental health. Basically, he talked about going through depression. He said, the one lesson he learned was, he kind of shut himself away from the world for a little while. And he said, listen, that is the wrong thing to do, man. If you're having problems, talk to somebody. Pick up the phone, man, whether it be a friend, family, whoever. Talk to somebody. Don't shut yourself off from the world. So it was kind of cool to hear him being kind of a mental health advocate. I know that's a big topic for a lot of people lately. Oh, yeah. So that was cool to hear. But yeah, man, I do worry about it physically. I mean, it's kind of weird, right? Like, you don't want to hear it's concussion related. You don't want to hear it. It'd just be nice to know what it was and how you make sure it doesn't happen again to him.
I have 3 friends right now that are going through something similar where they've had problems for about 2 years, and they've taken batteries of tests, and they have gotten to the point where they said, you know what? I'd rather know it's bad news than not know anything at all.
That's it.
Yeah.
So it's a little concerning, man. Hopefully that fight comes together. He did have a good. I asked him if he knew about that language in Ortega's contract. He was like, "Hey, man, I saw the interview just like you did. That's how I found out." He's like, "Don't you worry about Plan B. Plan A is going to be there, so we'll make sure it happens." But he's feeling good. He's in a good place. He's in good spirits. He said, "Listen, he wants to beat Ortega. Maybe a move to lightweight is on the horizon, but his goal now is to be considered the pound-for-pound best on the planet." So it was good to talk to Max.
Well, guys, so my next question would be this. I looked at the UFC 231 card. Folks, you can always go to MMA Junkie. One of the tabs at the top says rumors. Click that, scroll down to the event. This is December 8th. I'm looking at Holloway Ortega. If Ortega has that language, okay, good. He says, either way, I'm fighting for a world title. But it wouldn't be on that night because, no disrespect to the names that I see there, I don't see a worthy featherweight that could step in if something were to happen to Max. And, of course, I don't want something to happen to Max. I'm just going off the way the sport has been lately. So, that said, this card could still use some oomph. Like, it still needs more. It's not enough to have the 2 title fights. We're pretty spoiled nowadays. I'll accept Ansarov and Gadelha. That's a solid fight. But where are the other names? Maybe Manuel and Maheta Santos could you could throw them up there. But I still feel like we could get one more quality matchup, and I would love for it to be at featherweight. John or anybody else, have you guys heard anything about this?
No, I haven't heard what they're going to do yet. I heard that they may have somebody on backup, and I actually was poking around trying to ask who that was going to be, but nobody was able to answer yet, so I don't know.
I'd love to see Moicano versus Aldo on this card.
That'd be strong.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Who are the other names that you guys can think of? That's about it, right? I mean,
it's really the only.
I know Edgar will have a case if he gets past Chan Sung Jun, but that's a quick.
That's a very quick turnaround. I think those are the names right there.
Quick turnaround and
yeah. Other than that, then you're
right.
getting to the new breed guys who are just still coming up.
Unless you had Mendez on retainer, put Mendez on retainer as a backup plan. He's done it before.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, guys, we got to get on out of here. Big thanks again to KOCI 101.5 here in Southern California. Check it out. They play classic rock 24 hours a day. Mike Boyle, thank you, the man, letting me invade your studio. I'll be back here again tomorrow. Want to thank all of our guests.
4, 3,
we'll do it tomorrow. 2. We're out of here. Be champions.